All right, we'll call the town board special meeting of March 31st, 2025 to order at 6:03. And let's rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Billy, do you have a prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here, we invite your presence into our meeting. May your wisdom guide our decisions and discussions, and your love unite our hearts, and your grace bless our decisions. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. All right, and before we do roll call, so the purpose of this meeting is to discuss open township positions and or contracted services, including public works, parks coordinator, and the treasurer's position that just will be open up soon. So roll call, please.
Supervisor Henriksen? Here. Supervisor Olson?
Here.
Supervisor Millerberg?
Here.
Supervisor Lukey?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, number one, approval of the agenda. So everybody that's got an agenda, is there anything that you'd like to add or change to the agenda? All right, if there's a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, so let's get into the open positions and contracted services. This is still a special meeting, so we can make decisions if we need to, but it's more of a working session. So feel free to roll up your sleeves and ask questions and debate this and see what we can come up with. So on the public works side, I've been inundated with questions, at least a dozen in the last month, of people asking, you know, kind of why the public works position hasn't been filled yet. There's been some stuff apparently on social media. So I just want to give a quick background on that. That position became available on August 26th when the previous public works person left. That person happened to leave in the same day as our park attendant. What happened was on September 3rd, the board approved the job description to go out for a job posting for both public works and parks attendant. So thereafter, the clerk posted those openings. In terms of the public works position on November 26th, these applications have been coming in. But based on the number of people that submitted the applications and what we were looking for qualifications, we found that we really didn't have the pool that we were expecting as far as qualifications. So at that point, the board decided to change the job description, the requirements, where we required like a CDL. We also changed the beginning pay range to make it more attractive. Went back out and the clerk reposted those job openings. Meanwhile, while we were accepting those applications, I had a relative that submitted an app. So therefore, it basically rendered me, unable to participate due to a potential conflict of interest. So I stepped out, which then meant that it turned over to two other supervisors. In January, relative that had applied withdrew the application. And so then within the next few weeks, the applications came back to me. When I went through the applications and was looking at the cost of what we were spending on repairs on those big trucks, it came to mind that, you know, are we going to continue to keep these trucks and continue to pay the large annual maintenance cost on them? Or are we going to look at leasing? I think Bob had looked last year and leasing, it seemed kind of attractive at the time. Also, the question came up is, would it be more reasonable to contract to have somebody do all the roads for us, or at least do like the main blacktop, the asphalt, and then have our guys use the smaller trucks to do gravel, cul-de-sacs, those kind of things to keep the costs down. And so I talked to Bob a little bit about it in February, and we agreed that we should probably do a little homework and figure out where it makes the most sense for the township to invest our money. And so we were kind of at that point, but it was, you know, it's got to be more than two supervisors that talk about it. It's got to be a discussion amongst the board, which is partly why we're here, is to talk about the different options and see what this board would like to do moving forward in terms of how we see public works functioning. If we're gonna keep the older trucks and just pay the maintenance on it, are we gonna look at leasing? Are we gonna look at selling those and buying new? Or used? Are we contracting? All of those things. So, now, Bob, I know you did some homework on the leasing side. And I went through those numbers. Did you ever find out whether that cost was per truck or was that for both trucks on the lease? That is per truck.
Yeah, the information I got is terrible, terrible information. I talked to the guy again today because I didn't understand I don't understand how leasing got more expensive than purchasing. And he couldn't give me a straight answer. Because to lease the truck and then to lease the truck's like 350,000 for 5 years. And then if we want to buy it, it's another 117,000 to buy it. So, but to purchase it's 277. So leasing, I mean, talking to this guy again today, boy, leasing was not as adorable as it was on his posting for how cheap his trucks were. I think he did, when he said he was knocking 100,000 off, you think he was knocking 100,000 off a truck that was already 100,000 more than it should have been.
Oh.
So, because the new truck was 277 and to lease it was just shy of 500,000, and I did not understand that.
So it's not as attractive as it
Nope.
was last year.
Absolutely not.
So who did you talk to? Is this like
Boyer
down on
Boyer
two
truck
eighty?
got it. Well, their biggest shop is in Monticello,
Okay,
but same thing.
all right.
Boyer Truck and 280, they're mainly trucks like you and I drive, but
No, I've seen snow.
well, they are, but they get shipped from Monticello down to 280, so. Yeah, I talked to
Company,
him
just
today.
two locations then.
So yeah, it was not attractive at all.
We're at basically $4,600 a month for 5 years.
Yeah, and so you're at 55,000 a year for 5 years. And then you can purchase it for $115,000 when you're done.
When we were out salting this weekend, actually it was when we did our snowplow stuff last week. So I had all the backup plow drivers together. Some of them are public works employees for other municipalities. And I talked to them about these leases and the $100,000 discount that we'd seen last year. They said what happened was MnDOT last year, they decided to drop 150,000 plow trucks and not replace them last year. And they said what happened was a lot of the companies like Boyer, and they named off a couple other ones, they normally stock up pretty heavy expecting the MnDOT to come in and buy some, and MnDOT didn't. So they said they think what might have happened last year is that they were just overstocked and was looking at just getting rid of them for whatever they could get out of them. So
I
that
believe
might
that.
have been why it was so attractive last year and it's not this year.
I believe that.
Okay, so that means leasing is probably off the
Mhm.
table then.
Not a good conversation.
Okay. On the contract side, so I had talked to a contractor. Average Minnesota snow events each year is supposed to be roughly 19. Snow events that we had this year was 4 so far. Last season was 6. But back in 22-23, there was 49 snow events. That was our busy one where we're going like 4 days back to back. So that's pretty rare. Contract, if we hired them to do all of our roads, best price, best estimate that they could give without actually doing a bid was about $4,000 a snow event. So at $4,000 a snow event, if you based it on the average of 19 snowfalls a year, it would cost us about $76,000, kind of best case scenario around that side, to have a contractor come in and plow our roads.
That's all of them or just the blacktops?
That's the low end, best case scenario for all of our roads. It could double depending on when they actually drive the roads and they bid it. They said it could go up from there, or would go up from there. If you base it on that, like this year it would have been 16 grand. Last year would have been about 24 grand based on the lower number of snowfalls. But then if you look at worst case scenario, 22-23, Those 49 events would have cost us $196,000 to have them, best case scenario, come in and plow the township roads. So I don't like things that you can't count on. It's my problem with contracts. It's like if we contract it, I mean, we know that our repairs are about 25 grand a year on these existing trucks. But we don't know what our contract is gonna ultimately cost us by the end of the year, because it's all gonna be dependent on the number of snowfalls.
The tough game to gamble.
It is, I was kind of hopeful on the contracting. Now, what we could do is we could contract them and it would be, maybe half of this cost to just do the blacktop, and then our public works employees just use the smaller trucks and do cul-de-sacs and gravel roads, intersections, those kind of things.
What is there from blacktop to gravel on mileage?
We have 56 miles of road, and I think it's pretty close to 50-50 between gravel and blacktop. I think it's within 2 miles of each other. Yep, so we could possibly get that down to even maybe in half, if we look at that as an option. So I think we leave it on the table, but we just know that that's a riskier option, and it's a riskier option. And then I think we would have to look at which roads we want them to do. I don't want them to do even blacktop roads that are narrow, I don't think. Let's see, the other option is those existing trucks. The thing I have an issue with on the existing trucks is what we're finding now is last year, not as much, but this year more, is that the things that are happening on the trucks now puts them out of service. So we lost a cylinder a couple snowfalls ago. We lost a fitting, hydraulic hose fitting that put it out. So you get 3 hours into a snowfall event with 2 trucks, and 1 truck goes down. You got 1 big truck to do the rest of the township. And we went from what should have taken about 11 hours to do. And once that truck went down, it instantly put us at 17 hours to clean up blacktop.
So once all these parts are replaced, are they good for several years then? Or is it something that's gonna be recurring every 2 years?
Grab the coin and flip it.
That's usually not the same problem, it's different problems, but things like, the antifreeze tank on the 1 truck started leaking, and it leaked down on an electrical box. And it shorted things out, started giving codes, and would shut the truck down. So that one I think cost us close to $500 to fix that one. We have a sander that started failing last year. We still haven't fixed it. So we manually turn it on, shut it off, turn it on, shut it off. So we can use it. But that's another thing that's going to end up costing us some money to get that diagnosed and fixed.
What year are the existing trucks?
One is a 2014 and one is a 2015. The plows we're having problems with, they're a Henneke or Henneker. And the guys have said for the last couple of years that I've been here is that they are not favorable. If we continue to keep big trucks, then we're gonna also, one cost element to keep in mind is that we're gonna have to keep public works employees with CDLs. And we're gonna always have to have some backup plow drivers with CDLs in case they're sick or gone. So that's the other factor in there, is we're gonna end up having to, just like when we increased the pay range, that was to get somebody in with a CDL and experience. So our employee cost goes up too. One thing you can't do with the small trucks that you can with the big ones is, the wing isn't as big of a deal as far as reaching out. Other than if we do get a lot of snow, we can use that wing to take the snow berms on the sides of the road and push them back. So we've got more room to move the snow. With a small truck, you're going to push it out as far as you can, and then you're probably going to end up having to hire a company to come in with wings and push that stuff off, which isn't the end of the world. It's just an added cost. Thoughts? What do you guys think?
What is that international we've talked about for 10 years? The one of, like the 3, It's halfway between a pickup truck and the full-size truck.
The 2.5 ton.
Is that what it is?
Well, it's 3.5 ton.
Okay. That you didn't have to have any kind of AB.
Oh, no CDL, but the only concern I have is, I mean, these regular snowfalls, 2 inch, 2.5 inch, they'd be fine. They're getting 4, 5, 10. These trucks. got a hard
Struggle.
time pushing 6 or 7. We'd have to go out twice with the small. And sometimes, I mean, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I mean, we were out. We'd get out some and we'd do the route and we'd have to go out and do it again. Because there was so much snow.
Like these
I mean,
March
that's when you-
snowfalls. I mean, you get a 10-inch March snowfall and I bet you struggle like
Oh, yeah.
crazy with that truck
Oh,
out
yeah,
there.
'cause once you got the pump off, it's a lot more weight, it's a lot more snow. I mean, you could do it with smaller trucks, but you'd be out twice. I don't know, I mean, it's, like you said, you're locked into whatever, I mean, everything's coincident, I mean, we could go another 2 years with no snow. Light snowfalls, I don't know. Then we could have a big snowfall, like 3 years ago, we could have tons of it. I don't know what to say, I don't know what to look at, I don't know way to look at it. It's just all up in the air, it all depends on one thing or another. I mean, I even thought of, these trucks aren't that bad, I mean, I got 22 and 18,000 miles on it. We had a little bit of def issue on one, that's been fine. Now all it's been is hydraulics, cylinders, things that are just wearing out. And I thought, well, maybe we should just refit these trucks. I don't know, I don't know the answer, I really don't. I don't know the answer. And, like you said, contracting out, it's risky, you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know.
In a normal snowfall, it's, I mean, we need 2 trucks.
Oh, yeah, we need 2 trucks.
So when we have one go down, like I said, that last snowfall, like I said, it was 17 hours and the complaints started coming in like crazy, in the early evening because they didn't know we were down a large truck and a small truck. So, so then the question is there, we should probably work on some sort of a contingency plan because if we have one, or God forbid, both trucks go down in a snow emergency, we're in deep, deep trouble. So I'm just concerned, like I said, cost is one thing, 25 grand a year, and is it gonna come down or is it gonna go up? Most likely it's gonna go up over time.
After looking at all the prices, $25,000 a year is the cheapest thing we got going for us.
Might be.
Possibly we could try and put some money aside, so in the future, if they do die, we could be prepared to put a down payment down on something then, and hopefully things will go, I mean, if the businesses come back into America, hopefully then the prices will go down.
For the record too, that was Jack's. You got Jack's one, okay.
We got one more out there.
Yep. Tony, did you want to come up? Just say your name and address real quick.
Tony D, Temple Creek Drive. Sure, everybody knows my address. If you go through the minutes, you see we've been this route before, used to contract before. And the problem was we were last on the list. That's why it was decided to get trucks in the first place. So you're gonna have that problem again.
Is that when it would take 4 days for my road to be plowed out?
Good, good.
So not only is the cost there for contract, but so is the risk that we aren't top on the list.
Correct.
Okay.
The other issue is we had older trucks then. The one I would take out, rarely would I make a complete circuit without having to come back and piece it back together. That's why we got these new ones out here to replace those. Your key here is maintenance and cleanliness. If you don't get the salt off them when they're done, either that night when you're done or the next day, you're gonna end up with metal fatigue and problems, all kinds of problems. So that's the key, is maintenance and cleanliness.
Okay.
So
All right. I appreciate it. Anything else?
I don't understand why we're having such trouble with cylinders.
I think
I
it's
know
like-
I replaced a few myself. And I knew what the problem was there. There's another issue with those trucks. It takes a special kind of hydraulic fluid. You mix and match, you got problems. J-Craft would be the people to get a hold of to see what kind, they're the ones that supplied the hydraulic fluid that I got.
Mhm.
So that's another thing to keep track of. The other thing is loaders. Who's authorized to load? Mike, Buddy, and myself had to get certified on the equipment we used. Do you do that anymore?
I have no idea.
I don't believe so. And that's for OSHA.
Yeah.
Keep them off in your back.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the plow trucks though.
Oh,
Well,
most certainly is.
Also,
Well, you gotta have the proper person in there that's certified to run it, for one. Proper person in the loader that's certified to run it, for two. And the proper clothing. So,
okay. All right. No, good feedback. Good
just
feedback.
trying to help.
Yep, absolutely. No, I appreciate
Been
it.
there, done that, trying to help.
Yep, appreciate it, Tony. Thank you.
So another thing you and I talked about is a pusher for that front end loader.
Yes. Yep, and Jack did do a little homework on it. Looked like it was in the $3,000 range for a snow pusher on that.
Which is a lot cheaper than putting a blade on it.
Yeah. Was it
4,500.
45?
And if you wanted to get one that would clamp right for that front end loader the way it is, it's like 10 grand.
Yeah.
But
And a
it's
pusher
like-
is what, 14 feet?
Yeah, I think it was 14.
14 and the one you clamp onto that tractor, that thing can't. That was 14 also? That'd be a huge plow. Yeah,
Well, that one that you and I found was a quick attach one, wasn't it?
Yeah. it
Yeah.
was a chain up.
Well, it was the actual, I thought it was the actual quick connect that you just disconnect the bucket seat. Cause that would be quick and easy then.
and that's a huge tool that we don't use.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's always been said that that thing's way too small, but I think if you put a pusher on it, you could do a lot, but. And we've never put that on the roads, ever. Never really ran into that much of an emergency since we've had that thing, but.
We wouldn't be able to use a pusher on the road though.
No, but on small, like cul-de-sacs,
I mean, it'd be
I think-
amazing on the parking lots and
You're right.
recycling and stuff like
You're
that.
exactly
That's where
right.
it would really,
Yeah, the fire alarm,
Or-
this lot, that lot, cycling.
all the lots.
Yeah.
And again, the more the big trucks are on the road, the more they're doing.
Well, the side roads just around the lake here.
No, you can't.
Okay.
use that.
Okay.
It's only
Can't use it.
pushing, because
Okay.
because the blade doesn't turn.
All right,
It's
okay.
only pushing. But you could use it in a lot of areas
Yeah.
that the big trucks go into now.
What if, I know East Bethel has, I don't know if it's East Bethel or if it's a farmer that lives off of County Road 24 there. I know they had a big snow blower attached to a tractor. Is that,
Those are
That's
pretty
a whole-
expensive.
That's a whole different setup, but yeah, you could
Yeah.
do that.
would that be something that would be cheaper for?
Well, the speed would kill you.
Okay.
Cause
Yeah,
the
it's
speed, they
slow.
go about, I don't know, 25 feet an hour. They're so slow with a snowboard, but
This one was really fast.
Awesome.
yeah. And you need a giant machine to run it.
Okay. Any other suggestions or thoughts, or are we,
I mean, the price of a new one is outrageous. The price to lease one is even more outrageous. If we can put a pusher for $4,000, 4,500 on that front end loader and start utilizing that more. I know the problem you're gonna have with the front end loader is as soon as he's over here doing a parking lot, a truck comes in that has to be filled up with sand. I know that would always become an issue. See, and that's your primary load the truck machine, so.
that's true. Mhm.
But if it's a quick tach, you never gotta get out of the machine, right? That makes it a little better. Yeah.
So it sounds like we're keeping our existing equipment, but I would say that in our next round of budgeting, we should probably have this as a very serious conversation, because those things are gonna continue to cost more and more until they're gonna end up having to be replaced. And being that their years are close together, I'd hate to have them both go at the same time and be replacing two trucks. Be nice if we staggered them.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right. All right, so that means we're keeping the existing equipment, knowing that our cost is gonna be roughly about 25 grand in repairs. So what we'll do is we're gonna have to move forward then with the hiring of a person with a CDL. So we got two guys in here that's got CDLs. Yep, come on up. Name and address, Sam.
I guess my question is, why do you have to have two CDL drivers? Could you bring in a timer or a temporary worker to drive the second CDL truck? Because you're paying CDL rate for them to clean toilets, for them up in the senior center all year round for the short period of time we really need fall drivers. And I remember at one of the meetings, Randy Pagan said that he had, or not Randy, Rory, had a lot of guys that had CDLs that were laid off for the winter. So as much as the concern as we'd be bottom of the line for contracting, we maybe wouldn't be bottom of the line for like part-time. So maybe we could just hire someone without a CDL for the second person. And then when we need to use the double trucks, then you bring in contract or temporary worker or whatever. And yes, you might have to pay them the $35 an hour at that point, but you're only paying it during the snows or sanding time. You're not paying that during the time all year round to mow the grass. You don't need to pay that kind of a rate. So that would be a consideration, is to look at a lower paid person and the CDL person, and then just round up. Some of your temporary guys now, do they have CDLs?
Our backup plow drivers?
Yeah.
The one does, yeah.
Okay,
But see,
but
yeah.
reach out. Potentially that's an option.
Yeah, no, I like the suggestion. I'll follow up with Rory. I know that also during that conversation, there was questions about these guys being on unemployment, and if they want to disrupt their unemployment or not. He didn't think he thought that some of them wouldn't mind. So I think it's a great option. I'll follow up with Rory and see. Thank you. All right. All right, well, I'll check with Rory. I'll report back to the board on what I find out there. All right, anything else with the Public Works? All right, park maintenance, which would be our park attendant position. That one also opened up on August 26th. And I think we had gotten apps for that, right?
I didn't see how many we got, but I know I seen
I
a
think there's about
package.
8 of them.
Okay,
I was gonna start on them, but then after the budget, annual meeting, I thought I should wait, before I did that, because I had a couple, so at the parks meeting, we discussed that possibly maybe we could try adopt a park. I don't know if anyone in the community would be willing to do something like that, to where, you know, someone in that neighborhood would, they would make sure that the grass is mowed and all that. Otherwise, I thought possibly contracting it out. That way, if, you know, it's just during that, I don't know, but I have not gotten any, we need to put that out on bid, or not bid, but put it out so that we could get some bids in. I did talk to one resident and he was interested in, he does trying to cut back, but he wants to give back to the community. So if there's some, you know, so we might have lower bids that would be able to do that. Is our, you know, how is our lawn equipment? Are the mowers in good shape? Are they new? Are they older? Are they gonna be breaking down? So that way wouldn't be wear and tear on our equipment. And we could maybe just have like the maintenance people do here. So if you got done working, you had these areas that, you know, you have an hour or, you know, you could go do that. And that way, if they have something, you're close by, you're not at a park where you just unloaded all your equipment and you're called back here. So that's another thought that's possible, but we need those bids to kind of go forward on that.
So in the past, I've actually bid some jobs as a lawn care person, like a contractor. So I have like one packet that I used, that I had to go through to fill out for a city. And you can see it's pretty lengthy. They've obviously learned by their experiences that you need to be pretty detailed in when you put out your request for proposal. So this is something that we could actually start with.
Okay,
You know, and we could maybe draft the Linwood lawn mowing contract request for proposal. And so it'd be kind of based off this, but our own flavor of it. And then the question is, you know, do we contract all parks? Do we do an adopt a park and see how far that goes? If anybody does anything, what happens if they don't? If they stop mowing? Because if it's an adopt them and they're doing it for nothing, I would say that the likelihood is at some point they're gonna get bored and they're gonna, just like the crews that pick up on the sides of the road. They adopt a highway and they're great for the first couple of years and then they quit going out and picking up garbage.
I'm thinking the contract would be, for that reason would be better, but you know, one of the residents brought that up and I thought that would be
Yeah.
great, but it's like, we might, you know, like the school forest where the parents helped out a lot, but their kids moved on, so they stopped helping. You know, so if we could get something written up and we need it, I'd like to get someone hired, if we were gonna hire someone by May. So we would still have the maintenance part of the park. Would you have time? I mean, would our maintenance worker have time for that? So that's something else, because I know a couple equipments at some of the parks might need some maintenance on them. The one needs some welding done and all that. I know for sure. End of April, we're gonna be doing a park tour, so we can check them out more, but I know some of them do need some welding and all that. You know, so if there's any people out there that are welders and wanna donate some time, we'd be more than willing to let you.
How many, we have any sentence to serve people coming out of the county who need hours? Okay, or whoever they were from. I mean, we always seem to get that. I mean, one time we had a person paint half our park pavilions in the whole, I mean, they painted everything. Maybe that would be an option. It's not? Okay.
I'd be a fan of contracting the grass. When you look at the time commitment, the staff. And then looking at too, what we cut. We cut a lot of grass up at Betcher,
It's always been a big thing at Betcher.
and in terms of conversations I had, it'd be manageable to do it around here if the equipment is close by, because then you could buzz out for an hour and get a section done, but when you got a trailer up and go and then come back for something else or whatever it might be, to me, it's, you contract that, it's their equipment, it's their everything. And we can start putting some of those fix-it items.
That's fair use. I go there with great grandkids and I drive by it. It's fairly used. It's not to say we don't need the park, but we don't need as much of the grass mowed. And I don't know what they're mowing over at Olympic anymore, but that was another one. You'd mow the whole thing and no one would ever go there. Not saying that there's never used. It's just, we don't have ball fields there, so why? And at one point they said, well, because we have a sprinkler system, we have to keep up on the grass. So we're spending all of this money because at one point we put a sprinkler system in and then it decided no one ever wants it for ball fields. So I think, and my concern with contracting is they don't need to mow as often as they do, because if you say you have to mow every park every 2 weeks and we haven't had rain, they don't need to be mowed. If you contract, which I'm not opposed to the contracting, but look at it that when the grass gets to be this much, that's when we want you. Not that we want you every 2 weeks, even though you're just mowing dust because the grass didn't grow. And there have been summers in the past 10 years that we really didn't need to mow as often. But again, that's what the person was hired for, so that's what they did. So I think if you contract it for inches and then be mindful of how much really needs to get mowed in each of the parks.
Yeah, I know in the RFP, it says in there that the department head can decide when they start mowing in the year, when they end of the year, and if there's any time that there's weather conditions that permit them to not have the contractor show up. So, and then the cost is adjusted appropriately. So if the RFP is written such, then it'll cover that. Yeah, so Tony, did you have another comment? You're gonna have to get up though. You have to get up to a microphone. It's being recorded so people can't hear you. Because you were standing or sitting there. Did you want to make a comment, Tony? Come on up.
I'll say again, treat everybody the same.
I do. I tell everybody to come up to the microphone.
No, you don't. With those lawnmowers, there's a reason I did it the way I did it, was to keep track of the sprinkler systems. Because you gotta see which one is turning and which one isn't, or which one got wiped out from the previous mowing. So that's why you need a guy on there that's gonna be taking care of the irrigation stuff, that knows about the irrigation stuff. So that, and those mowers, what are we gonna do with those? And there again, that's the other thing. That John Deere, I had to put a new drive shaft and universal joint on it because somebody didn't know how to hook it up. And it comes spinning off and bent everything up under there. So it's important to have somebody that knows that equipment. And also that goes around, picks up the garbage and can check the situations out. Is there vandalism? Is there beavers that blocking things up? So that's why that's important to have one, not one guy, but somebody knows what's going on with it, do it.
Yeah, this particular RFP has it to where they're required to go out and pick up sticks if they're there. If the branches are down, they have to remove the branches. They have to put the garbage in the receptacle. So again, if the RFP is similar to what this one is, it'll cover all of those things.
What's an RFP?
Request for proposal is to get bids.
Okay, the
Yep.
audience may not.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay,
So, yeah, I think, I like what Andy said. I think if we should at least look at what the cost of contracting would be. And then we just need to pick which parks. I think, working with Jack and the previous, public works person. It's kind of like when they do have a shot to come out, they can pretty much take care of Broadbent across the street and Four Seasons behind because it is just a quick out, like Andy said. So I think if we got bids just to see where we're at with those other parks, see what the cost is gonna be. And then
Yeah, because if we do get the Frisbee golf, I don't remember the name of it for the Frisbee golf course. If we get that done, we need to try and maintain that. So if we can, if it does end up on the one site and we have people coming up from the cities, they're gonna want a decent place to play the Frisbee golf course.
oh, you're right, correct. Yeah. Should we look at doing an RFP for the outside parks? I think I've got square footage, rough square footage on each park.
I would like to.
Yes.
Okay. If you want, I can work with you and Billy on the RFP.
Okay.
And get that, go out and get some bids as quick as we can before we get into the mowing season too far.
So give them till mid-April, or do we need that long? Give them a
I
couple
think
weeks.
we're gonna get bids back pretty quick.
Okay.
Because they're all lining up their work and stuff. Some of them have already been lining up their work. Let's get bids as quick as we can back. And then we'll have to talk about it at a board meeting and figure out then whether we're gonna go that route or higher. So there's
hopefully
no sense
the last
moving.
meeting in April, we can have the discussion, have the bids and have the discussion then.
Yep, because if the bids are not feasible, then we gotta get going on hiring. Thoughts?
That's where I'm at.
All right,
Okay.
do we need to make a motion? Or do we, no,
Oh.
this is just a meeting.
No,
Okay.
we'll just, three of us will
Okay.
start working on the
Okay.
RFP, we'll bring it back to the
Okay.
board. Yep. All right, and nobody's been interviewed yet, right?
I haven't interviewed anybody.
Okay, I know in November you were working on some stuff, that's why I just want to make sure we didn't go down that path yet, so perfect. All right, treasurer, now we've got a position that's gonna be opening rather soon. And I thought, as long as we're talking about open positions, we might as well talk about filling that like we did when the clerk's position opened up. So I'm assuming we will follow the same, well, I guess I'm gonna open it up right now for suggestions. We can follow the same process that we did for hiring the clerk's position and do look at the job description again, the pay range, and go forward with opening the positions, posting for them. We also have the issue of we have to come up with an interim solution. Because if we're gonna hire, it's not gonna happen in a week or two. So we got two things we have to figure out. What do we want to do for an interim treasurer? And then what are we gonna do for moving forward with filling that vacancy?
When I was out collecting money for my jump, I was talking to one of my neighbors and she did work in the office before. I'm not really exactly, she was just doing clerical, or she said she worked with Alyssa. So I'm wondering if she did help. I tried reaching out, but I haven't heard anything yet. So I may have someone that would possibly be able to help out. I'm not, so I was out collecting money, so we just kind of talked briefly, but she said she did help in the office and it sounded like she was helping with Alyssa some. I don't know for sure if it was that or just clerical. So I need to verify that before we go forward on that.
So for the interim, in terms of just doing what we did last time, I did talk with the deputy treasurer and she would take the interim to maintain continuity as far as signing and stuff like that. But obviously those activities in terms of payroll and everything else would have to be, I think that's what this financial service side, to me, that's a turnkey thing that we can do in the short term to get the those AP and payroll taken care of.
What about, because I think you sent out some different options as far as contracting. I read through some of those. That was actually, I thought, pretty impressive. What are your thoughts about contracting?
Yeah, that's what I was referencing to, this sheet right here.
I did speak with Abdo and Bergen KDV and they'd be willing to meet within the next couple days if that's the board's wish. So we could move it quickly, but they couldn't give me like a time frame on when they could get started without having that bigger conversation.
Sure.
So if that's something that you guys want to do, I can set that up.
That's another proposal we should get immediately.
Yeah.
See what it's gonna
Yeah,
cost, get
I
them in
think we
here,
should.
because we can't wait 2 weeks for a meeting.
I can call the others too. It's just Abdo and Bergen are ones that I have worked with previously. So I'm more familiar with them, but I can call the others if you'd like more.
If we at least get two in, I think that'll give us a flavor of what our costs and options are gonna be. We okay with two, or do we want three?
I think two is fine to start with. I'm just looking at locations. One's in Fargo.
One in Texas.
Yeah. Oh, you're on the other one. That's not the financial one, that's the executive. That's a search.
I'd just get one, I'd get two on the line right away.
Yep.
And interview them like, and if we can get everything that they have to do set up, so it's, I mean, and you could almost send it to them and save the time of an interview, and unless they say, oh yeah, we can do it for this price, we'd love to interview. Maybe that'd be the best way to do it. Here's what we need.
If there is a big difference between the two of them in price, maybe we should check out a third one just to make sure.
I see Alex is on this list and I've only known them to do investment stuff, so. I don't
Okay.
know what the payroll or. Yes.
I've got one that we looked at last year, probably about 8 months ago. I can get you the name of it. For whatever reason, I want to say, I think they're Maple Grove, really they're here in Minnesota. And they were one that was back when we were looking at possibly doing a HR consulting thing. And of course, they don't do à la carte, just do one. Their payroll, their the whole HR thing. So I can get you that one too if you want to look into that.
I think the townships actually worked with Ellers before on bonding.
But as far as conversations coming in, if they came out, is there anybody availability to with them to come back with the decision next Tuesday? In terms of bandwidth to meet with them.
And
You
I
know,
can
she
always,
calls and they can come in this week. Two supervisors can get there and have the conversation. Would be the direction I'd like to see it go. So that way there we could have something for Tuesday.
I'm fine if I meet with them or if somebody else is meeting with them. I can, as long as I know at least a day in advance, I can change my schedule around so I can make arrangements to be there anytime.
I think this 1 week, I don't have a lot of stuff going on. Just Thursday I do.
There you go, the two of you can do it. I have no issues with that. We just gotta get it sent out to them now. I mean, right away tomorrow and hopefully get an answer by Thursday. So it's gonna have to be fast.
That person.
And if Billy has a time that works out for one of you and you guys would rather sit in, just let me know. Like I said, it doesn't matter whether I'm in it or not.
Yeah, I would say when you get their dates and times. Solicit and two of us can show up.
It'd be pushy, but tell them we need it by 8 o'clock Monday
Yeah,
morning.
no kidding. Okay, so we'll meet with them, get some information and some pricing. So that we can get that back to the board on Tuesday. If we're gonna do that, then we probably don't have to go through the exercise of going through the job description at this point. Or do you want to do that?
I think we should,
What was that, Andy?
I think we could go, I'm just pulling it up here. Maybe that's a conversation with them too, to help, if it's the one firm that has more of that information.
For this position, there's two. There's one that's approved and one that's not approved that I think has more tasks and information on it that you should consider.
Well, the unapproved, this was a meeting back, on June 13th, 23, where we talked about this. And my recollection is that the tasks that are identified in red were additional duties, because the thought was is that our treasurer would pick up these extra duties to learn the job of the clerk, so that when the clerk, because the clerk had already said that at some point she's going to retire in the near future. The intent was that she would be cross-trained up until that point. And so those would be her added duties, and then she'd be compensated for it with the intent that she'd become the clerk. So that's why this was never approved in that meeting, was because we weren't comfortable changing, or at least the majority of the board wasn't comfortable with redefining the treasurer's job to include a lot of those clerk things. The other thing that's kind of scary is that there's a separation of duties between a clerk and a treasurer for a reason, and we were kind of melting the two together. And I don't know if that would have been wisely accepted. You know, statutorily, they're supposed to be separate. So that's why, that's my recollection of why those are red. So to me, we can go back and revisit those red ones, but I think most of that stuff will come out and go back to the original one. I don't know if anybody's got any other comments on that, but
No, that's right. That's where I was going, is between the two, because that's, like you said, the approved and unapproved, so.
Yeah.
I say we have the conversation with the firm and
Yeah.
go from there.
sounds good.
You
All
know,
right.
These might be cheaper and then we don't have the, the extra cost for each employee for next year.
True. Yeah, very true. All right. Anything else on treasure? Once we get these answers, then we can decide on a path forward. All right, sounds good. Plow truck, I think we already covered that with we talked about the public works position. I think we've killed that one, so we're good there. All right. And then just a quick follow-up. So as long as we're talking about open positions, so the position for, what was it, the assistant coordinator? I think it was, for recycling. That one is like deep in the process right now, right?
That was approved last week.
Yeah, okay, right, okay. Just wanted to put it out there.
I think that's done.
So that was the three positions that have been talked about. So I think
Do we have so we're just waiting on the background check yet, right?
Yeah.
So would we be able to do a quick deal just to get them going and then have like a 3-month trial deal, or do we just want to wait for the original one?
Sid has done the state and federal background part of it. It's just waiting for the bigger packet.
Okay,
But I think she had some questions for somebody about start date and things like that, but.
Yeah, it's pending that BCA one to come back. So I think we gotta get, Kim
okay.
and I can connect on and see what it looks like timeline wise with when that is done.
Yeah. We're gonna have to bring AIS back to a board meeting too. That was one that we tried to approve so we could get rapid response back on background checks. And that contract is about 50 pages long. So I'm not comfortable signing that unless this board takes a look at it and says, chairperson, sign that document. So we should put that on the next regular agenda, if we're gonna go down that route, which we already approved. All right. Anything else for any open positions? Questions, statements? Okay, we're good. Everybody's comfortable. We got a path forward. Okay. And then at some point, we're gonna have to talk about a better, more streamlined, consistent process of doing our hiring so we can get through it quicker. So that will be later. All right. Just go through real quick the upcoming meetings. We got the Matt Spring courses, April 4th in Duluth. There are, I think Billy and I am for sure going. I think you're kind of up in the air yet on that date. Anoka County has their open house on Tuesday, April 8th from 1 to 5. Anybody that's interested in there. Local Board of Appeals is Thursday, April 17th. This way it's out, 6 o'clock. And then for anybody that's interested, Martin Lakers has their 58th annual meeting on Thursday, May 15th from 5 to 9. All right, anything else to come before this board tonight in a special meeting? All right, hearing none. If there's a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. All right, thank you and good night. We are adjourned at 6:58.